Now, with this war that Trump started over in Iran, there's a lot of questions have come up. But one of the biggest questions is why? Why did he start this war? Right now, it seems that this administration doesn't really have any answers.
We have some pretty significant news regarding the war in Iran. Pete Hegseth this morning announced that regime change is not the goal in Iran. And yet, Donald Trump, when he announced the strikes in Iran, urged the Iranian people to rise up and take over their government, and then proceeded to kill the supreme leader of Iran. So regime change is not the goal, according to the Secretary of Defense. Over the weekend, Pentagon officials admitted to Congress that there were no evidence that Iran was planning on striking U.S. interests first. So the preemptive strike narrative is also undermined. And according to the Washington Post this morning, there is increased paranoia within the Defense Department over the future of the stockpile that America has concerning weaponry.
So when you hear that, it makes you wonder, then what was the goal? And then why would we get into a war with Iran when we have issues with our own stockpile? As more and more of the Trump administration come out, you realize that these people aren't giving us straight answers.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get
Yeah, your statement is false. So that's not what I was asked very specifically. Were you there yesterday?
Yes, I asked.
Okay. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Marco Rubio and this administration is saying one thing one day and another thing another. This way that they're talking to us is exactly how it was in the lead up to us going into Iraq, us going into Afghanistan. These were all the things that they did to try to get us in the war. The difference is that they made us feel that it was justified before. Right now, there's no justification that they can give us that'll make us think that we didn't attack Iran first.
China and Iran will have full sovereign right to do such commercial transactions with each other, and no country should pretend to be surprised. Well, it is clear to everyone in the world in decency that Iran is not threatening the United States with war or military confrontation. It is just the opposite. The United States is threatening war against Iran, coupled with Israel. Therefore, let's really clarify who is at fault, who is not at fault. Iran is not threatening war against the United States. It's the United States threatening war against Iran.
We are not asking for a ceasefire, and we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the U.S. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the U.S. From us. No, we are waiting for them.
You were waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So here on this channel, I've been clearly trying to show you that it may not just be the United States that is causing this. I think we know this already. We know that It's Not Real actually had reason to want to do what's happening right now to Iran and within the region.
One, but why is that? I thought our defenses were the U.S. defenses were so strong.
Because Israel's more important than the American clients in the Persian Gulf.
You're saying that, like, the sophisticated Patriot, for example, are not here, they're there.
There are sophisticated Patriots there, but the majority of the air defense is going to Israel. That's what the client or the owner, whichever how you want to look at it,
yeah,
they're the ones getting the most of the master system, the masters.
We can clearly see now that Iran had nothing to do with us. We said that we had done what we needed to Iran, and now here we are in there. So how is it that we're in this conflict saying that Iran was going to do something to It's Not Real when there was no evidence of that?
There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. we equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. What is the objective? What is our exit plan? What obligation do we have now to the Iranian people if they do rise up based upon his call for them to go to the streets?
No imminent threat to the United States. But there was to It's Not Real. And what Mark Warner was saying there is, just because there's a threat to It's Not Real, is it our obligation to come to their aid? Why is it that we have to protect that country? Hey, we're not going to get into a forever war. But he won't do that because his overlords won't let him do that. Nobody before this man would be stupid enough to do the dumb shit he just did.
Israel was the only country who participated in this militarily, and is there anything to be looked at there as to why the United States is going at this operation with the Israelis alone? I mean, Israel made it very clear why they want this war, the Saudis less so.
Look, my family lives in Tel Aviv. My aunt and uncle and cousin literally are texting me from the bomb shelter. So, I take Israel's security very seriously. It's literally my family. And Bibi Netanyahu has literally been trying to get presidents from both parties to do a regime change operation in Iran with him for decades. Donald Trump is just the first one stupid enough to actually do it.
Greetings, my VVVN family. This is Bold Perspectives Network. I'm Mr. Red. I tried to lay out a case in the beginning to show that we are in this thing and nobody has any clue why. Now, I know there's a lot of theories out there about why we're in it. A lot of people say it's a distraction, and I think it's bigger than that. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm saying that I have come across a few more pieces of information that actually makes sense. If you look at the reporting on this channel, now I'm starting to connect dots. Again, there's so much more to this, I know. We only have pieces, but I'm going to connect a few dots, and I want you to lay out your thoughts in your case on what's going on and where we go from here. We have much to discuss. Let's strap in. Let's get after it.
Iran is connected to Venezuela. Trump knew he was going to strike Iran when he bombed Venezuela because we already bombed Iran. And he knew a war was brewing. Israel knew this as well. And so when Trump went after Venezuela, he knew that he needed to get a new oil supply because he knew Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz and disrupt global oil. Donald Trump is going to send working class Americans to die, killing thousands, if not millions of more people to make sure that the United States of America has an increased stronghold in the region to continue extracting resources from the ground, stealing them, using them for the United States of America, the American empire, and he doesn't care who pays the price or what happens next.
And on the surface, it sounds good. Oh, Donald Trump is just trying to get oil and trying to make us rich. It's deeper than that. It does not make sense for us to have done the things. I believe the Venezuela attack, their oil, is a part of the larger plan that I'm going to show you.
The big event of 2026 will be this April, when Trump visits China on a state visit. So what Trump wants to do is go to China and negotiate a grand bargain. Remember, in 1971, Nixon removed the US dollar from the gold standard. And so the US dollar was now free floating. So to stabilize the US dollar, to give it value, he did two things. The first is he established a petrodollar, meaning that Saudi Arabia would only allow for its oil to be purchased by US dollars. And the second thing that he did was he visited China to open up China. And so what America did in the 1980s was transfer technology, expertise to China, open its market so that China would become addicted to the US dollar. For, a few decades, this relationship worked really well. But then the United States started to abuse its exorbitant privilege. It started to print too much US dollars. It started to engage in these wars in the Middle East that were causing the debt to balloon. Then you had the 2008, 2009 great financial crisis. So China became much more worried about the value, the stability of the US dollar. Where does China get most of its oil? It gets most of its oil from the Middle East. If Trump were to attack Iran and destabilize the Middle East, then China would be forced to rely more on the Western Hemisphere for its oil supply. So this is the grand strategy that's being played out, where Trump is conducting all these wars around the world in order to strangle the Chinese economy so that China becomes reliant on the Western Hemisphere for its supply, and then China would be forced to buy more US dollars.
Now we're starting to get a little bit closer to the truth. He talked about us disrupting China, and that kind of makes sense because China right now is slowly becoming the world economic power that we used to be. They are making such great strides in innovations that we can't keep up. We don't have this type of manufacturing. And everyone who voted for Trump thinking that that's what he was trying to do, you got fooled. You got hoodwinked, you got tricked, bamboozled, run amok, and Donald Trump ran with your shit to get into office. The point is, we have been going to war in the Middle East because of exactly what's happening right now. We knew that if we didn't find other ways to extract oil, then we would see the end of the petrodollar. In this, we also realized that we can't keep up with China. We cannot keep up with the pace of what China is doing. China has the manufacturing capabilities that the United States doesn't. And the United States plans on getting it back. But all that cannot happen if China continues at the rate that it's going. The thought is to disrupt Iran in order to slow down what's happening. We need to be able to control the industries of these other nations for one purpose. And we're going to talk about that next.
The war is a distraction from this.
Wait, it's not about their nukes?
No. Iran's central bank counts because their oil and energy is very important, including for China. If you're going to come out with programmable money,
with a revolutionary new payment system,
with digital IDs that are interoperable globally, that controls in each jurisdiction centrally, you can't afford leakage. Iran right now is the big leakage in the system. Now, Larry Fink and BlackRock have said
we need to move very rapidly.
They're planning on trading all stocks and bonds using tokens.
All investments on a tokenized platform.
What it means is this is going to be...
we have one common blockchain.
You know, potentially $100, $200, $300 trillion market. $100, $200, $300 trillion market.
The wars, the Epstein files, the aliens, AI, it's all to keep you from the truth. The power brokers are trying to preserve US dollar dominance at any costs. All the value is converging into precious metals and soon the digital rails.
That's it. The dollar is losing value. It is losing power. We do not have the infrastructure to be able to keep up with some of these other emerging and growing countries, particularly China, especially what they're doing. That's why we won't let any of their cars, which are way cheaper than our cars, but way better. We won't let them here. You have a bunch of countries, the BRICS countries, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China. I forgot what the S is, like Syria or, one of the African countries, okay? The point being is they were going to start their own economy. They were actually going to start their own way of trading. Imagine the petrodollar, having everybody trade in oil through the US dollar is what has made us dominant. Now other countries are moving without us. And this would shift the balance of power if nothing was in the dollar. That way we can't control a goddamn thing. Economically, we would be ruined. This has not only been advantaging the United States, but think about it. It's actually been advantaging It's Not Real. Think about what he said in this clip over here. He talked about being able to trade in precious metals and all these other things, right, as a backup plan. Why do you think Trump was so hell-bent on taking Greenland with all the precious metals? We need something to be able to back our money and to trade in. But the more sinister part of this plot is to take everything, to digitize tokens, to basically bring us to where we are using a new currency, an online currency. This is why they need all of our digital data. This is all connecting. All of this digital stuff, this AI stuff, them taking our jobs, having everybody's information, having AI that could take out targets, because this is going to piss a bunch of people off. This is going to have Americans revolting. Imagine if you have drones and AI that can hone in on people that are resistant to this thing that they want to make come about. The New World Order, the one world currency, and places like Iran are stopping it. We need to bargain with China so we can gain more time, because without it, it's game over.
I'm just saying. Before you start hating on Iran, remember who actually started this.
We, the American government, are the reason why Iran is radical. We did this.
The truth is the Iranians had a case against us.
Which case?
Which was to do with a debt for some tanks.
They had a democratically elected leader that we did not like. I believe his name was Mossadegh, and we didn't like him because he wanted to nationalize the oil. Specifically, the Brits didn't like it.
The Shah of Iran paid for those tanks, I think, for like £400 million.
But the British, they didn't submit.
But the British didn't deliver the tanks.
1953 Iranian coup d'etat, aided by intelligence agencies of the UK and United States.
Where we sold the same, we sold the same camel twice. Is a typical British maneuver. It's like we did with like we did with Palestine. You know, anyway, it's another matter.
So Iran tried to do a deal with Britain for tanks. They gave the money, but never got delivered the product. And then they tried to sell back to them the stuff that they had already paid for. So you have to understand, these people had every right to be mad at us, every right not to trust westernized countries. Yet, we still got them to go into the Iranian nuke deal that was put into place by President Obama and his administration. However, we know that shit didn't last.
In 2015, this guy made a deal with Iran that was so good that all of these people also signed off on it. And then in 2018, this guy decided he didn't want to be in that deal, so he pulled out of the deal. Then in 2021, this guy tried to get back in the deal, but it was a little too late. They didn't want to make the deal then. Then in April of last year, this guy tried to negotiate a new deal. They didn't want to do this new deal, so then in June of last year, this guy said, hey, I have obliterated their capabilities. That was in June of last year. And then this last weekend, we blew up an elementary girls' school.
So how are we back in there again when we were told a year ago, less than a year ago, that they had no nuclear capabilities? And then why would they out of nowhere just go ahead and attack It's Not Real? They're just going to attack them. Why would they do that? It's not in their interest. They know that if they attack It's Not Real, then the United States is going to get involved. So preemptively, or at least through the grapevine, which I talked about in the other video, is that they were trying to get back to the table. They were trying to just have discussions. And instead of making the discussions last as long as possible, the United States went in head first into this shit. You have to ask yourself why. And the reason why is because we need to move fast. They need to move fast for two reasons. They need to move fast because there's not a lot of time before this dollar crashes. They're robbing this economy on top of the fact that we can't outdo the pace of which our inflation is going up. We can't afford to pay. We're about to default as a country. You've heard that we're the richest country that has ever existed, which I don't believe is true, but that's what you hear. We're the richest country ever. And here it is, we're about to default. Why is that happening? And again, you have It's Not Real, who they want to control that whole region. They want to control the whole Middle East because of their beliefs. And who better to do that than their big bro? I wouldn't even call it big bro, I'm talking about their bodyguard. They don't have the power by themselves to do it, so they use us. And every president has pretty much capitulated to them, even though it doesn't make sense. So when we ask ourselves, who are the adults in the room who are there to try to stop this? It's very disturbing on how many people in this administration are okay with going to war.
The anti-war forces are J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard.
That's it?
That's it. He said the pro-war people are led by Marco Rubio and include Pete Hegseth and now the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I stopped him on that point this morning and I said, wait a minute. During the Iraq War, the most stridently anti-war component was the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They were always the last ones that wanted to attack because they know what war is. And he said, but you forget, Trump has replaced all of the Joint Chiefs this year, which I had forgotten. Any of these four-star generals who had worked their way up through the ranks, but had served under Biden, he fired all of them. And he promoted people that he knew would be politically loyal.
This is why Trump having loyalists around him is the most dangerous thing that could happen. I even had a clip where someone had asked Trump, hey, who are your advisors? He doesn't have any advisors. He's taking his own advice. He's taking the advice of someone because he's not smart enough to have tried to map this out by himself. But the fact that we don't have any adults in the room, that's the thing that kept him from his worst instincts in his first administration. Fast forward to now, those guardrails aren't there. Those people aren't there. This is some scary shit, people. Now, it would be easy to believe that this isn't also about the Epstein files, because it absolutely is also about the Epstein files. I'm going to show you just a little bit. Mr. Gray is going to talk about the Epstein files more in his video that's coming up. I'm going to show you the connection, part of the connection with the Epstein files.
In a conversation with Steve Bannon and a Norwegian diplomat in 2018, Jeffrey Epstein warned of the possibility of Donald Trump starting a global conflict if he feels cornered, even mentioning Iran directly. Take a look at this. The diplomat says Trump pulling troops out of Syria is a bad sign. He is up to something and it's not good. Epstein then says, by the way, I believe that his pulling troops out of Syria is step one. He needs a large diversion. The diplomat says he could be pulling troops out of Syria because he doesn't want them there if a much bigger operation takes place and puts their lives in jeopardy. Reminder, he will take everyone down with if he feels the end is near. I always urge people not to corner a rat. They become extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Then the diplomat says it's worse because it's not only him, it's his family, business, etc. I believe that Mueller is making a mistake and treating him like he is organized crime. No organized crime leader has a 1 million man army. Now here's the part about Iran. Epstein says we only have 2,000 troops there. If he were to bomb Iran, they would be slaughtered. Bannon says, oh, that would be crazy. Then Epstein says, not from his perspective. Now let's think about what happened recently. Trump increased military presence in Iran before striking Iran, and many people are saying he's doing all of this because he feels cornered by the Epstein files.
Now, my initial reaction was to say that, yes, the Epstein files is why he feels cornered and why he's doing that. But when you combine the fact that he's being cornered by the Epstein files, yet the oil interest of the United States is being threatened, which threatens the US dollar, which threatens our economy. And then you consider and say, well, Trump is being smart. He's thinking ahead. I don't believe it's Trump that's going to lose in this situation. I believe that It's Not Real is protecting their interests, and their interest is our dollar. Do you understand? Because if we fall, they fall. It's Not Real is not friends with a lot of people. They have us. And I really wish that I could say that this is the end of it, because it's not. It goes deeper than that, and I think that's how you have the It's Not Real connection to the Epstein files, to Donald Trump. And this is the thing that they don't want to get out. This is the thing that would take down the whole system.
There were some files missing.
Yep.
Did you see the chart of the years that they're really missing from?
Mm-hmm.
And we can see that there is a massive gap between the years of 1999 to 2001, when you had the tech bubble blow up and the Lewinsky impeachment trials happening. The election of 2000, the highly contested election of 2000, John Kiriakou.
Yep.
And then in 2001, you have the worst terrorist attack in United States history in New York and D.C. and in the skies over that fell over Pennsylvania with United 93. And suddenly all these files are missing. But John, we did get an email from 2003 that slipped through the cracks. This is from 2003. Someone named Ed Epstein sends an email to one Ghislaine Maxwell saying, any interest in being on the Shadow Commission on 9/11, the membership list is secret. She responds, thanks for the invite. Unfortunately, I cannot be on the Shadow Commission.
A Shadow Commission. It takes my breath away.
Now, when you add this into the context of what we're talking about, you start to realize that the towers, the Twin Towers, were thought that if you take down this symbol of capitalism, then eventually the economy would collapse. But I also believe that this was a pretext to get us into the Middle East, because in order to preserve the petrodollar, we needed new oil sources. So we wanted to be able to control the regions of the Middle East and basically take down the countries that would get in our way of establishing the petrodollar and keeping it the world reserve currency, the US dollar, along with you have the interest of It's Not Real wanting to control the whole Middle East.
We've made the decision we're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Pero Gracias. Sí, así es. Sí, así es.
So again, 9/11 was a pretext in order for us to go into these countries, to do what we've done, because there was a larger plan in order to control what we needed to get to the point that we are now. It was always a plan to get them to change the dollar, change the monetary system such that they control everything, not these other countries, and not anyone to oppose them. That's why there's such a push for this AI, because the AI, if robots are able to do the jobs that we can't do, and they're able to do it more efficiently and faster, it crashes every economy. That's why there's a race, this AI bubble race, because whoever does it is going to control the market. Whoever does it is going to control everything. Now imagine we've shown that we don't give a damn about anybody else but ourselves, and the people that control our system don't care about anybody but themselves. We will do anything at this point, and I mean anything, I believe, in order to see this objective through. The fact that this actually happened, that this was a plan, it makes you think about all the presidents, right? Since Bush, because Obama's pretty smart. So where is his intelligence that told him this is what we have to do? What I'm using Obama as an example of is to say that he's not controlling the national policy interest of this country. I don't believe the presidents are. Who is giving the information to the people in charge such that they move and make decisions like the ones that Trump did, like the ones that Obama did, like the ones that Bush Jr. did, like the ones that Bush Sr. did? How long has this been in play? Who is controlling the United States? Who is controlling our presidents?
And the last factor
that is very important. It's an eschatological factor where, if you look at the Epstein files, it's clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups, okay? You have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Septine Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense.
Now, I've laid out the case to you tonight that there are controlling interests from different groups, from different societies and organizations. The Epstein files have shown us that. And the fact that the people who need to get mad aren't. The people who need to be out in the streets doing something, they're not. Even though they are being controlled by the same interest. At the end of the day, whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, whatever your color is, if you are not in the elite class, it doesn't matter what happens to you. 80 or 90% of us are going to lose our jobs. We're going to lose everything. Everything that we ever thought that we were working for, it's all a lie. It's all an illusion. And I'm sorry to bring this news to you this way, but I don't know about you. I would rather know than not know. But I'm going to leave you with this. I want to leave you with the leaders, your leaders. I'm talking to you, MAGA, because we didn't elect this shit here, okay? Everybody here on this channel, we didn't elect this. But all of you who follow MAGA, who followed President Trump, I want you to hear the words of his Secretary of Defense, and then I want you to hear Trump's words. And I want you to then ask yourself, why?
I've been a recovering neocon for 6 years now. Like the foolishness with which we ricocheted around the world, intervening, think it was in our best interest, when really we just overturned the table and created something worse in almost every single scenario, has led to the hubris of the Pentagon is that they want to now tell other countries how to do counterinsurgency based on what we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, are you kidding me? So you really have learned nothing.
We've spent $8 trillion in the Middle East, and we're not fixing our roads in this country. How stupid is it? And we're not fixing our highways, our tunnels, our bridges, our hospitals even, our schools even. It's crazy.
Stay vigilant, stay engaged, stay revolutionary.